Beautiful people, weekly check-ins. I'm going to be having these videos and this audio every single week until I can take this show on the road, until I can see you face to face and give you a hug and just have a conversation in person. This will have to suffice. I am so grateful for any and everyone who comes on to share their personal story. There was no pre-call involved. All I did was ask for their phone number and their time and day that works best for them. We were able to have a beautiful conversation. So without further ado, weekly check-ins, let's begin.
Hello.
Hey, Kirsty, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to dive into it. So,
Sounds good.
to really break the ice, if I haven't already, what are you most grateful for today?
I am grateful. Well, first, I would say for being alive. I actually had an accident like 2 months ago,
Wow.
the end of April. Yeah, with my son. So, yeah, I'm grateful for that, that we're alive, because my car literally rolled over.
Wow.
And as a parent, you could understand, like, having to put my son in that situation was, like, so traumatizing for me.
Of course, and for him as well, I'm sure. Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, the gift of health is something that we all should be grateful for. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, let's get into it. How can I help? What's going on?
All right. So I just feel like all over the place, right? So like I'm very optimistic, but I do have my highs and my lows. Where I feel like I can go from being powerful to powerless, like just by anything that anybody says to me, whether it's in a relationship, a coworker, or whatever. So that's something that I've been struggling with. It's like I know how to fix it, but then I just still don't act on it just because I feel not enough or inadequate for whatever it is. So I kind of self-sabotage my opportunities or my own relationships just because I jump into a conclusion that I'm not enough or I'm not the right person for this, or maybe it's just not my time, like that.
So my first follow-up question to what you said as far as not feeling worthy or enough, or you feel inadequate and the self-sabotaging and doubt starts to set in. I'm assuming one of the other emotions that you feel is fear.
Yes.
In these situations.
That's very low. Yeah.
Okay. So can you give me, if you don't mind sharing, just a very specific situation where it really stands out to you, where you felt all the things that you just described? Now we'll add fear into that mix, and just kind of walk me through it so I can get more context.
For example, I would say, I guess just because it's more recent, I know my abilities to do stuff at work, right? But then there's days that I feel like either my manager puts me down or like a coworker makes fun of my accent, and I just feel like, I don't know, like it just like hits me so hard for some reason. I take it so personal, that whenever an opportunity happens, even though I know I'm equipped for whatever it is that comes my way, I just don't show up. Like I don't stand up to be like, hey, I want to do that position, or I want to be the one training this person,
I will say this. I think I have a couple of things for you. Number one is you have to be careful of taking things too personal that really probably most of the time have nothing to do with you. People project their insecurities onto other people. So if your coworker is, picking on you or bullying you or just, making you feel uncomfortable, that probably is just an insecurity that they're projecting onto you that has actually nothing to do with you at all. There could be jealousy there. There could be attraction. There could be where they know that they have a hard time showing up just like you do, but it's easier to pick on someone else and point the finger than it is to just do it yourself and to put the work in. But the other thing is, as far as feeling worthy enough and your self-esteem and your confidence, you said sometimes you don't show up, like even though you really want this promotion, or you really want to do well at work, or you want to do well as a mom or a partner or a friend, etc. But it gets to the point where you're like, but I'm so scared to do it because what if I fail? I'm so scared to do it because what if they judge me? I'm so scared to do it because what if they think of me differently, right? But at the end of the day, the only question you have to ask yourself, Kirsty, is, are you showing up for yourself? You are showing up for yourself by you and I having this conversation right now.
Okay.
As scared as you were, you almost backed out. You probably almost like was pacing, et cetera, but you showed up. You showed up. So for nothing else that you're going to get from this call, you know that you're capable of showing up.
Yeah.
And I promise you, and I'm like taking full responsibility in this time that we have together to be an example for you that you don't know unless you try.
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, no one's going to hand you a promotion.
Right.
I don't know what your relationship situation is.
I do have a boyfriend, yeah.
Okay.
We've been together for 6 years.
Perfect. Your boyfriend didn't come knock on your door and say, Kirsty, I'm the one, trust me. Like, you had to try.
Yeah.
You had to take a risk. Yeah. So instead of worrying about what if, look at the things that you've already accomplished. Being a partner to someone for 6 years, married or not, I don't care. That's significant, especially in today's day and age in 2021, when no one can commit to anything. They can't commit to lunch, let alone a partner for life. So showing up for your partner should prove to you that you're able to and capable of doing that. Showing up for your son should show you more than anything what you're capable of. You know that, Kirsty. So these are things that you have to remind yourself in the moments of fear and self-doubt and what if and maybe some insecurity there. You have to remind yourself of what this feeling is not the first time you felt this way. So when you did feel this way before, your boyfriend becoming a mother, even getting the job that you have, getting the whatever that you have going on, you've been here and done that. And you have everything equipment-wise to try.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I really want you to sit with is like the idea that failure is this bad thing. I'm gonna tell you a true story that I can't wait to. I'm sharing it now with everyone, but I was it was gonna be. I had another plan for this story, but my last time in Chicago last week, I was in the car with my daughter, and I was telling her about the consultations that I've been doing, and she's like, "How did it go, Dad?" I was like, "Well, it was good. I was helping this woman out. She was going through some self-doubt, some insecurity stuff at work and everything, and." She wanted to do better for herself and to become more, et cetera. And she just feared failure. She feared failure. That was like her biggest fear, was failing. And my daughter cut me off. I can't make this up. She cut me off and she said, why do people fear failure? She said, because failure just leads to success. Kirsty, listen.
That is amazing.
I was driving. And I almost crashed. I was like, what did you just say? And she's like, I mean, think about it. And I'm like, no, I know what you're saying. I was like, first of all, I had like a proud dad moment. But then I also had a moment where I was like, how can a 13-year-old conceptualize that sentence, that simple sentence, that failure leads to success, but adults can't?
Right.
And that's because there's an innocence, as you know. And by the way, Kirsty, I apologize for using the insensitive metaphor of I almost crashed the car. I didn't mean to say that, especially due to what.
No, not at all. Trust me.
Okay, sorry about that.
Good.
I could have used a million metaphors. I chose the wrong one.
No, you're fine.
But how can this child, 13 years old, compartmentalize that? And it made me think about. I'm like, why is it so easy for her? And then I thought, well, she's a kid. There's innocence there. There hasn't really been true trial and error yet. There's been heartbreak, I'm sure. There's been in my daughter's life, and obviously not romantically yet, but between her mom and I, or maybe a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, there's really been nothing major, significant, where she's applied for the dream job of her life and didn't get it. You know, she applied for this university that she wanted to go to and didn't get in. There hasn't been that yet. And I was like, it is my duty and her mom and everyone that's in her life that loves and cares about her to make sure she always maintains that mindset.
Right.
Failure equates to success, because without failure, you don't know what not to do anymore. You don't know what to eliminate and get rid of and remove from your life.
Yeah, that's true.
So now it's like, as I was saying in the consultation with this woman, and I told my daughter, I said, I was trying to reframe the definition and reword, the word failure to her, because not just failure equates to success, yes, but also like I embrace failure now on a whole different level. I get like excited to fail. It sounds crazy, but like I really do, because I'm like, what lesson am I meant to learn in this failure? What am I supposed to learn from it? What do I now know that I didn't know before? These are all glass half full. You use the word optimistic thinking.
Yeah. Wow. Hello?
Yeah. I was letting it marinate for you. No, it's a lot.
No.
It's a lot.
No. And that's one thing too, like from what you're saying. So like when someone is telling me something negative about themselves, I'm like the first one to be like your cheerleader, to be like, you're amazing, you got this,
right.
But it's just so hard on myself. Yeah. But you said it correctly. Like I guess like with her mindset, like not being in that situation yet, of course, I feel like in my situation is just like I've been through so much. Obviously, I'm thankful for the lessons, just like you said. And I wish I had that mentality again, like what she was saying, because that's important to have. Like, I mean, I think even like the Bible says that we need to have faith like a child, just because we don't have those doubts. But it's just so hard for me. I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, it sucks to hurt. Like pain is painful. Pain is suffering. Pain is frustration. Pain is you start to question everything because it didn't work. But here's how I look at pain. It's the greatest teacher of all.
Yeah.
Because as much as you said, like when, you mentioned right now, and I said earlier, like failing means you got to find the lesson. But here's the thing is like, even if you get the lesson dropped on your head, you could just shove that lesson off and keep moving and keep failing. But if you can pick up the lesson and learn from it, it's like the Michael Jordan quote I always say, and it's hanging up in my office. Michael Jordan said, I failed so many times, and that's why I succeed. AKA,
I love that.
I know what not to do now.
Yes. Like you say, wait, I have to say this right.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's something like repeat and repair.
Oh,
you don't repeat while you repair.
No, I'll help you
there
out.
You go.
I'll help you out. No worries. And it'll be on a t-shirt soon, but you repeat what you don't repair.
There you go. That.
And the beauty, Kirsty, of repair, right? So let's stay with the repair for a second, then we'll go repeat. When you repair, I just said this on the last call, that the beauty of that is you're now getting all these tools for your toolbox, because you're going to be faced with adversity. It's not if, it's when. We all know that. But now when you're faced with adversity, you're like, hold on a second. I've kind of been here and done that. Let me go into my toolbox and grab the appropriate tool for this situation to repair it.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's growth. Because again, everyone fails, and everyone actually, believe it or not, gets handed a lesson, but very few learn from that lesson. Very few look at it as a lesson. Most people look at it as a blaming opportunity, a victim opportunity. Why me? Poor me. Just, of course, this happens to me. This is my luck, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, no, like that's the lesson, bro. Girl, you're supposed to learn from this. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you look at it like that, it just, everything makes sense. But now let's go to the repeat thing. It's easy to continue to repeat this type of behavior again, because you think, well, if I don't try, I can't fail. If I don't try, I won't get hurt. But here's the thing.
Wow.
Here's the thing that's worse than than trying and failing and trying and getting hurt. Regret.
Yeah.
My biggest fear in life is regret. That's the only thing I fear. I don't fear God. I don't fear death. I fear snakes, but I really fear regret. Because at the end of the day, when I'm old and can't do as much as I can do right now and move around as physically as blessed as I am with my health, and if my kids come to me, or my grandkids at that time come to me and say, you know, did you do everything that you wanted to do? And I was like, well, kind of. I had this idea for this podcast. You know, podcasts were really big, like 2000s. And, you know, I thought about helping people, but I was just afraid to fail because I was like, who the hell am I to help people? And like, what?
Yeah. Because look at now.
Look, here we are on the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Here I am trying to help thousands of people. And for their word, I am helping thousands of people. But I'll even take it to the love side of things, Kirsty. My last relationship scarred me. Not the woman scarred me. The relationship in itself, who I became in that relationship, what I allowed in that relationship, that all scarred me. To the point where I was like, you know what? Maybe this love thing is just not for me. I was like, I give up, I quit. At least I have a daughter. Like, oh well, I tried. And then I met my wife. And along the way of meeting my wife, I grabbed these lessons. I started to learn from them. I started to repair them and not repeat. And then I started to open up my heart in ways that I never could before with anyone, not just romantically, like ever. And I'm in a beautiful, happy, healthy marriage because I learned from my lessons, AKA some people call it failure.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of continuing to try. I could have easily been like, you know what, this love thing really isn't for me. And Shay could have been like, hi, I'm Shay, nice to meet you. I'd be like, hey, I'm Justin, I'm not interested. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could have had this idea, this podcast, and been like, I'm crazy to think about that I could, you know, talk in front of the camera in front of thousands. What the hell am I? That's nuts. People are gonna think I'm weird. I could have done all of the above. And I'm so thankful that I didn't. And now when it comes to, you know, you mentioned earlier how you're able to give advice and show up for people and be optimistic for people. And I got two things for that, Kirsty. One, I can relate to you. Totally, I can relate to you because I used to be the same way. But then when I started to actually show up for myself, how do you think I'm now showing up for other people? Even more so. Imagine how I'm showing up now as a friend, now as a partner, now as a son, now as an uncle, now as a father. I'm showing up. My cup is so full, it overrunneth. Like I can't pour anymore. That's why I give so much. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So
because you can empathize now with whoever, like, well, the name of the podcast, who can relate, because now you can relate 100%.
Exactly. So that's the beauty of pouring from this now full cup is I'm able to show up in so many different ways for people that I never could before because I can now show up for myself. Imagine if you could show up for yourself, what kind of mother you would now be.
Right. Yeah.
What kind of partner you'd be to your boyfriend, friend, coworker, etc. Like you can't even fathom how you can show up because you're not there yet. But I promise you, if you give half of what you give to everyone else to yourself, you'll be an entirely different person for the better. And the other beauty of that is everyone around you will be better for it because they're getting a better version of you.
That's true. I'm writing things down.
Oh, great. No worries. No worries. I was like, am I talking too much? I'm sorry, but I get so passionate.
No. I am all for this right now. Thank you so much.
Of course. So
I'm literally like writing keywords here.
Perfect. So, and the beauty is this is being recorded. I know you forgot, but you're going to be able to watch this over and over and over. But the other thing I wanted to say too is that now let's try to come up with like some like to-dos, okay? Like some tactical plans of action. Because it's like, this is all great in theory to talk about and it sounds awesome. But to actually...
Wait, just before you jump into that real quick, I'm so sorry. So one more thing before we get to that part.
Of course.
So as far as like feeling enough, and I'm asking because you're the man, right?
Yeah.
So like my struggle is one of the reasons why I also don't feel or have felt like I'm not enough. And I'm working on that. For the last past year, I think I'm better than what I was before.
Mm-hmm.
But just like waiting and waiting and waiting, you know, for the ring. And it's just like, not that I want the ring, but I just want the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like so hard because to me it's like, am I not worth it? Like,
Sure.
you know, and like I mentioned before, like I was married before.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. So it's like, you know, like
You have
it
your
just like
doubts.
hurts me. Yeah. So I'm like, is it me? Like
Sure.
what, you know, and I just, you know,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up just so we can incorporate that in the to-do
let's
list.
talk about it. Let's talk about it right now. Let's talk about it right now.
Okay. All right.
I would tell you,
Mm-hmm.
you should have a conversation.
I have, but
You have. Okay. And what's
Yeah.
transpired from having this conversation?
I just feel like it's always the same thing. Like it's like, yeah, I want to marry you, of course. So we're gonna do it here. We're gonna do it then, or next year, and it's just been 6 years. Yeah, like now we live together and everything, but I'm just like, okay, like to me, it's important. I always thought it was something important since I was little.
Sure.
So it's important to me, you know, and I can understand though in his situation, he doesn't really believe that marriage should be a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like he does show up in other ways for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking that away from him at all. Like he's amazing, you know, just being here with me and we're doing this life together. But It's just like that little piece it just bothers me. But I just feel like it's always an excuse.
Okay. Have you voiced that part to him?
I have.
And what was his response?
Oh, sometimes it turns out like bad. Sometimes it's just like, oh, we will get married. Don't worry. You know, like it just depends. It either goes into a fight or it just goes into like a silent treatment.
Okay.
Like it just, yeah.
Okay.
It's not consistent. That. I feel like I'm in a roller coaster.
Okay. I respect that. Okay. So a couple follow-ups. I think another question to ask, not so much, and I'm not saying you're walking up to him and saying, where's the ring? When is the ring? No, I'm not saying, I'm sure your delivery is way better. But how I would now ask this question, which is, are you afraid to get married? Because here's the thing.
Okay.
Regardless of your different views of marriage, it's important to you.
Right.
As much as it didn't really add up to me that my wife wanted a saxophone player to play while she walked down the aisle, I was like, I'm going to figure this out, and I think I can play it, and it's extremely important to her. I'm going to do everything I can to give her what she deserves and what she wants.
Yes, and that was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. But like the point is like I heard her. Right. I respected her requests. I respected her wants, her needs, her desires. Even if I thought it was crazy or cheesy, it didn't matter. It's not about me. So I would ask him, are you afraid to be married? What are your hesitations? Because technically it is a piece of paper. Shay and I lived together before we got married. Nothing's changed. So like beside we signed something and we spent a ton of money on a beautiful day. And that's pretty much it. Like that's what it is. So I think there's a deeper issue or a deeper root here with him that if I were you, I would ask, because you're also entitled to ask. Yeah. You deserve to ask, and you need to let him know, maybe without letting him know, but just show up in this way. Like, look, you can talk to me. You can come to me. Maybe there's things that you don't know that how he feels about marriage. Maybe he feels, here you go, Kirsty. Maybe he feels like you do at times of inadequacy.
Yeah.
Maybe he feels like I'm not equipped enough to be a husband today.
Wow. You know, I watched that on your self-sabotage. I think you mentioned that in there.
Yeah. So maybe he's self-sabotaging, and maybe he's scared to try. But I promise you, not that I'm suggesting you give him an ultimatum. I'm not saying that at all. But hypothetically, if you were to give him an ultimatum and he chose not to marry you and you walked away, I'm pretty sure he would have regret. So I think, you should approach the conversation with a question of, I just want to know, am I missing something? Is there some fear here? Is there some doubt? Is there some concern? Is there some, multiple hypotheticals where you're in your head about this? Because I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And yes, I want to sign a piece of paper and have a ring on my finger and have a celebration. But that it's not even about that. I just want to do life with you in this way.
Right.
And if you can hear me and respect me and how I feel about this, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm not telling you to go to the jeweler tomorrow, but I'm just asking you to hear me out and just hear my perspective, just like I want to hear your perspective and I want to hear you out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about that. And the last thing, actually, Kirsty, how old is he?
So this is why I'm telling you, I swear like every episode relates to me. Okay, so I'm 35 and he is 29.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps me because it makes me think he thinks he has time.
And I feel like I don't have time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's not that I'm rushing, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm rushing. It's just, like I have a 12-year-old son and I just want to give him a family. I mean, he has one, but I just want to do things the way that I was brought up. Like this is the right way to do it.
Sure. Well, I don't think you're rushing because you've been in a relationship for 6 years and you're not even engaged. That's not rushing. So don't worry about feeling rushed.
Okay.
But I just think, someone who again is still in their 20s, I've said this before, like we just think we have all this time in the world. And regardless of age, again, I'll go back to the simple fact and probably the biggest point is that it's important to you. And I understand, how as a woman, as a person for that matter, but in your case as a woman, the insecurity starts to creep in, the self-doubt. Am I not enough? Am I not wifey material? Am I not, is he having doubts? I get all that. And so there is some type of responsibility on his behalf to reassure you. And that's why I said, if you come to him with a question, just try to find out what's in his head, what's in his heart. You're now not going to take it personal because you're going to have the answers. There's no more like what if or like question marks in your head. You're going to get the answers, hopefully, if he's honest with you. And then the other piece is you'll be stronger together for it. Because again, it's not if, it's when you're going to go through adversity. But if you can go through adversity with like a support system, how much easier would that adversity be to overcome? So lean on each other. Like go towards this together. Don't let it divide you. But I think you festering and holding on to how you feel and him having, I don't want to use the word pressure either because you're not putting pressure, but him knowing how important this is to you, and another year goes by and another year goes by and continues to go by and he's not proposing, it's in his head too. So I don't want this to cause a divide between you two. I think it could be, and it may not just be one conversation. I think it could be a couple, but I think it's important just for both of you to be able to voice how you feel respectfully and in a mature way to get some type of reassurance for both of you.
Yeah, that's true. I'm writing this down.
Cool. And again, you can listen to it again. Okay. So, let's get into some like tangible things that you can do to start applying all that we're talking about. The first thing is I really want you right now to sit with that question again, back to you is, why aren't you showing up for you? I know we talked about fear and self-doubt, et cetera, but is there something that you actually really tried? Like my daughter hasn't, we talked about that. Is there something you've tried and failed at and it's like kind of scarred you?
You want me to answer that or just write the question?
No. If you can answer, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. I would say the one thing that comes to mind is when I was 15, I was in this competition at a singing competition from churches in my town. And I messed up. And I don't know if that was part of the reason why I lost confidence in me and myself. because I feel like I was embarrassed publicly.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been like one of the roots of my fears, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, just like my whole marriage thing
Mm-hmm.
also made me feel it was just a bad divorce, and I just felt ashamed. Like I feel like I was, I don't know, like I don't know if that's part of it, just because I feel like people are condemning me
Mm-hmm.
or looking at me a certain way when I'm not that way.
Right.
So I don't know if it's part of that.
Sure. Let's go back to the singing thing. We'll start with that. Did you
Hmm.
ever try to sing again?
I would, yes, but I always would choose like easy songs where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna hit a high note anymore because
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up, you
Sure.
know?
Sure. I respect that. But that's not challenging. That's not growth. That's comfort.
Right, I know.
Yeah. And the other thing is that's not life.
Hmm.
Life is not easy.
Yeah.
And that's why I think, not just the 15-year-old singing self, but that's why I
Hmm.
think at times when you're faced with adversity, you take the easy route,
Hmm.
which, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of times it's probably you not even trying.
I'll just try just enough,
Or
but
just
not, yeah,
enough.
like I won't, yeah.
And I know you've heard this before, but
Hmm.
what you put in is what you get out.
That is true. Yep.
So moving forward, and then we'll go to the marriage thing. When it
Hmm.
comes to singing in your
Hmm.
30s that you are now, not that I'm metaphoring now, but you're not going to sing. If you want to, do your thing. But like moving
Hmm.
forward, when it comes to an opportunity to hit a high note, when it comes to an opportunity to get just outside of your comfort zone enough,
Hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, this isn't, I'm not going to like have this be rocket science, because it literally, Kirsty, is this simple. Just try it.
Hmm.
You also have to think of it. Kobe talked about this a lot with fear. He's like, when it comes to fear and like the thought of it before I actually try, I think to myself, okay, fear, here you are.
Hmm.
Hypothetically, if I were to live in fear, what's the worst case scenario here? Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And he goes, I put myself in that predicament. And 9 times out of 10, I'm like, that's it? Oh, well, I'm
Wow.
trying right now. I thought it was going to be way worse than what it was. I would,
Hmm.
correct me if I'm wrong, I personally would rather figure that out ASAP than to let time go by, weeks, months, years, and then I figure it out down the road.
Hmm.
So try it. Sing the high note. Get uncomfortable. Do a little bit more than what you're accustomed to doing. Show
Yeah.
up for yourself. I'm gonna hit it right, if I haven't already, Kirsty. I'm gonna hit this right on the head. Watch this.
Okay.
What if your son came to you and he said, Mommy, I'm scared to try. And what if they make fun of me? And what if they judge me? What if I'm not enough? What advice would you
Wow.
give your son?
Right.
Don't try, honey. You're right, actually. They probably will make what? No, you're not going that route.
No, not at all. Right.
So
No.
now, how can you tell him to do something that you can't even do for yourself? What if he says, Mommy, is that what you do when you're scared? What are you going to tell? You're going to lie to your son?
Of course not. Yeah. You're right.
So every time you get scared to do something, pretend like your son is watching you.
Wow. Yeah.
And pretend like he's the sponge that he is, soaking
Hmm.
it all in. What would Mommy do?
Wow. Thank you for that.
Of course.
That is a great, yeah, I love that.
It's so easy when I have like parents, because I'm like, okay, great. Here you go. What would you tell your daughter? What would you tell your, they're like, oh my God, you're right. Because
Yeah.
it's true though. Like, what example? It's our responsibility to lead by example to our kids and our children. Again, if
Hmm.
my daughter or grandkids came to me down the road and said, did you do this? Is this what you did? And I'm not going to lie to them.
Right.
I'm just going to sit there and regret and shame myself
Yeah.
as a parent or grandparent by not leading by example, not doing what's in my
Yeah.
control and living up to
Hmm.
my best version of myself, my full potential. I
Hmm.
look at my mom in a lot of ways as Superwoman. Your son will too. You just got to put your cape on.
That's true. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now let's talk about the marriage. A lot of people like attach the word failure to divorce, and I'm like, it kind of bothers me because
guilty. I'm sorry.
What's that? Oh, guilty. Yeah. Well,
I said that earlier.
Yeah, but I like, and I don't know if it's because I'm married now. I don't know when this started, but I look at like marriage as bravery. Because you were able to put yourself in at least the position to succeed. Most people don't even do that. That takes courage. That's when you get married and you decide, and we're talking obviously monogamous right now, when you decide to settle down with one person for the rest of your life, that is probably one of the biggest risks you're ever going to take, mainly because you're looking at a person, not just saying I do, but what you're also saying is, I'm now giving you some of the keys to my heart. Please don't break it. That's one of the scariest, hardest things you can ever do.
Yeah.
And so let's say the marriage doesn't work out. You get divorced in your case scenario. But it's not failure. It's just that it's a redirection. With all due respect to your ex-husband, thank God the marriage didn't work because you wouldn't be with your boyfriend.
Right.
There's a saying, and I stole it and I added it in my vows. And I'll give it to everyone here now and to you too. Because I know you forgot people are listening and watching. But one day, it'll make sense why it never worked out with anybody else. And for me, October 18th, 2019, that day came. I realized why it never worked out with any of my exes, any girls that I dated, any girls that I thought I should pursue, etc. It all makes sense. Here's something that I personally husband through and with. Okay. God forbid something were to happen where Shay and I get divorced. I know that the days leading up to this moment, the years leading up to this moment, I gave it my absolute all. I tried my hardest. I showed up every day the best way I could, the best way I knew how. I gave it my all. And at least I know I tried. And maybe we grew apart. Maybe we realized that whatever the case is, but I know I tried. But there's also another saying that says, my opinion changes when the facts do.
Wow. That's good.
So the person that you are today is not the person who said I do. Therefore, my opinion on this bond that we said and committed to is now changed.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So
it's so hard to look at it that way because sometimes, like you said earlier, like we want to victimize ourselves. And
sure.
And not that I want to, it's just like it was a very scarring relationship, I would say, just because I never had a low self-esteem, not that bad, until I got married. And then now that you say that, it's true because now I did show up at that time for myself and I was like, I don't deserve this and I need to walk away from this, you know?
Yeah. But Kirsty, like look, right there, sorry to cut you off, but right there.
No, you're good.
That's a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
You showed up for yourself. And you know who else you showed up for? Your son.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why, and very specifically. Sure. And this is why I decided not to be with my daughter's mom anymore, because I saw the pattern happening, which was I was about to repeat my parenting the way my mom did, my parenting the way my dad did, meaning all I saw was arguing. All I saw, not that this was my case with my ex, but all I saw was violence and abuse. And my ex, or my daughter's mom and I would always argue, and it was very rare we saw eye to eye, and it was toxic, et cetera, for all the reasons. Not one person's at fault here, but all the reasons we just weren't right for one another. And I thought to myself, there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, like I can't have my daughter grow up in this environment. I can't normalize this.
Yeah.
It's not her fault.
Mm-hmm.
She shouldn't have to be a witness to what we can't figure out as adults. It's not her fault we're idiots together. So I need to show up for her.
For sure. Yeah.
So again, the next time you're scared to show up, think about all the times you have already shown up and look at the results because of your ability to show up.
Okay.
So how do you feel?
I feel good. I feel empowered.
Good.
I obviously took notes, and I know you have it recorded.
Yeah.
But I feel good. I feel relieved, and like you mentioned, sometimes we know these things, but we have to dumb it down. Like, hey, listen, like, you know what you got to do. You actually have to do it and show up and do it. So thank you for the opportunity too.
Of course.
And I just think it's so amazing. And I know you got to go, but I just wanted to say that I think it's so amazing that you actually take the time to listen to us, and not just today for me, but you do it constantly, like on Tuesdays or out of the blue, and that means a lot, because not everyone uses their platform to help others. And that's so amazing that you actually take the time from your day to pour into other people's lives, like a blessing to all of us, basically. I mean, I'm very thankful, at least, and you have helped me in a lot of ways, even though you don't know that, but you have, because you made me realize, like, wait a minute, like, he's right. I'm worth it. Like, why am I over here waiting? Like, if you don't have intentions to marry me, then what are we doing here? Just an example. And I just feel like you've just been such a blessing in my life. So thank you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I received that so well. I'm really trying to do a better job of receiving compliments. It's like very hard for me to do that, but I receive it well, and I thank you for that. And not to sound cliche or like a bumper sticker here, but I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for me to allow people to feel like they're not alone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Kirsty, have a great it's nighttime for you, and a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.